Alameda County. So it's really important to hear firsthand, and absolutely we can do more.
So they decided they would buy an RV and make it their home.
I would like to hear, and I'd like to end it on a positive. How about a challenge, and then how about a success?
The biggest issue is a lot of students, and what this documentary hints at, is their families are just one paycheck away from being unhoused.
The IDs to Social Security, income verification. So I think that would be one of the main challenges that we see out there as we work with these clients. The success is people are getting housed.
There's always room for improvement.
On the panel, we had, and this time I'm just going to read, Elisa Marquez, Alameda County Supervisor, District 2, John Lowe, Alameda County Deputy Housing Director, Vivian Wan, Abode Services CEO, Amber Stein, Move Mountain View Executive Director, Gisela Hernandez, Washington Hospital Health Chief Inclusion Officer, Renu Nair, Fremont Unified School Board Trustee, Jeff Spencer, Pastor Niles Discovery Church and Safe Parking, Barry Tamani, Molino Foundation President, James Gonzalez, Pathways to Services Development Founder, and Kristen Lane, Niles Main Street President. Thank you. Thank you. Huge thanks for spending your evening with us tonight.
The very first question is directed to Supervisor Marquez and John. From where you sit and how you serve, how does the county work with Alameda County cities, especially Fremont? And maybe is there room for improvement? It's kind of a loaded question. Go for it.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Let's give a huge round of applause to the producer. This film was incredible. Just thank you so much. Really excited. I learned a lot, and to answer your question is, it's really about communication, collaboration. So as a supervisor in District 2, I have convened meetings with mayors, council members, and specifically city managers, and whoever's in charge of their housing work. I think it's really important to hear firsthand their concerns. Every city is unique within Alameda County, so it's really important to hear firsthand, and absolutely we can do more. So I think with anything, it's about consistency and tracking those efforts. So I'm committed to doing that, and I'll leave it at that and let.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor. Also honored to be here with you all tonight. There's always room for improvement, and from a staff perspective, as a member of the Alameda County staff, we work really closely with every city in the county, and we collaborate really closely too. And that's not just meetings or emails or phone calls. It's really getting skin in the game on projects, like getting projects off the ground. There are multiple affordable housing projects in the city of Fremont where both the city and the county really put material investment and made those units possible. And at this point, it's been hundreds over the last several years, spread across all over Fremont and across the Tri-Cities. So that work will definitely continue in the future. And that's only a small part of the collaboration, right? So there's lots of different aspects of this problem and lots of different people working to solve it. And we do our best to make sure everybody's at the table.
Thank you. And the county is our safety net. You know, the city can provide some things, but the county is really our safety net. Working together, that's why we work so closely together. And thank you for that. Next question is directed toward Vivian, Amber, and James. You guys are providers. What are some, I would like to hear, and I'd like to end it on a positive. How about a challenge, and then how about a success in your line of work?
I would think for me, one of the main challenges that we see, you know, as we work with the unhoused population is getting the documents in time. You know, we see a lot of participants fall through the cracks with the many barriers that they have with getting the documents they need to even get the housing, from the IDs to Social Security, income verifications. So I think that would be one of the main challenges that we see out there as we work with these clients. Oh, and the success, you know, the success is people are getting housed. You know, I'm a prime example of Housing First. You know, I started this 8 years ago. I brought my child home from the hospital and went to a program that was considered Housing First, and it works. You know, so that's the most positive thing that I can say.
All right.
We run a safe parking program in Mountain View and Palo Alto, in those two cities. And the challenge of the program or running the safe parking is we don't have enough housing for the clients that we are serving. And so we can have them into HMIS and all of the county database, et cetera, but they are not the priority because in part they're not on the street, which is understandable, but by virtue they are classified as homeless as well. So we are constantly on the bottom of the pool to be able to house our clientele. The positive side is that we do have a success rate of, right now, I think we place about 45% of our population that we serve into housing, despite the fact that it's very short of housing. And then the other portion of it is that I think in the movie they refer to us being at the river and looking at the babies coming from the top and the individual going back to the top of the river to see where they're coming from. The vehicle dwellers are people that are really survivors. They had figured out that their apartments are going to be ripped down in the community they've been living in for many, many years, and they want to stay in that community. They want to keep their children in that neighborhood, or they have a job there. So they decided they would buy an RV and make it their home. But one of the things that they didn't anticipate and run into is that we as a community and as a society have decided that's not housing. And they block the roadways, the bike lanes, etc. So we are passing ordinances, we are towing them, but these are resilient individuals that made a housing plan for themselves. And that's, I'm in admiration of them because they're not on the street and on the tent, but if we're not careful, that's where they will end up if we keep towing and taking away their housing, really. The best part of it is that it's a very low ask. You can come to the parking lot, park your RV, and kind of learn how to live in a community. It becomes a real community. People take care of one another. They learn how to do, to set up solar systems and those kinds of things. So by being a low ask from a parking lot, you can go to an apartment and be able to be amongst neighbors, to follow the rules of what it takes to be a renter in a community.
So first of all, I want to echo Supervisor Marquez in thanking the filmmakers and producers. I whispered to Supervisor after that this should be a requirement for every elected official, every city manager, everyone who actually serves in public office, because everything that was demonstrated here is true. And also I want to have a huge thank you to Kathy Timberland and her many hats for bringing us all together today. So challenges. I don't have all night, folks, and I could use it, but right now, you all have the context of Housing First now, and the gentleman who wanted to turn back the clock on what that meant and go back to requiring sobriety and recovery and all of that as a condition. And welcome, that's where we are right now. So a week ago, HUD made that drastic change from after more than a decade of following evidence-based practices, following like empirical study after study after study of how Housing First works. They've turned back the clock, meaning that right now 90% of those resources go to housing, and now they're limiting it to 30%. So that's going to have a drastic impact on all of our communities because, whereas services are absolutely critical without housing resources to provide to people while they're receiving those services, before, after, or during, folks will stay homeless. So that is a huge challenge that we're facing right now. And if you want to get involved in supporting that challenge or fighting that challenge, you can come see me after. There's a lot of work going on. The positive, I would say, is, man, there are a lot of people doing this work. And we care deeply, and we are fighters, all of us, in different lenses, and now I hope all of you. And, you know, I always get the quote wrong, so I don't know why I continue to say it. You're always much better than this, Pastor. But you know, this is the Martin Luther King quote of the arc of justice. You know, the arc of justice always bends towards justice. Come on, help me, guys.
The moral arc of history is long, but it always bends towards justice.
See, I knew. Why did I even know? So, you know, we're in a time, but I've been doing this for over 20 years. You know, we will come out of this time and we will begin to house people and with the quality and quantity and with the compassion and values that we all know that every person experiencing homelessness deserves. So that's a positive. We will come through this.
Wow, thank you. And as I'm asking the questions, if another person on the panel thinks they'd like to chime in on what I had asked or have something else to say, feel free to just jump in, okay? The next topic is going to be on healthcare and students. Outreach and physical care and mental health care. Giselle and Renu. So I know, Renu, you've been on the wellness committee with the school district before, so I thought maybe you have something to talk about with that. And Giselle from the Washington Hospital and your outreach position. What would you guys like to say about what you're out there doing or what you've seen? Where do we need more work in those areas?
Well, I'm a school board member, and strictly speaking, in regards to what we offer as resources for our students, currently we have 267 unhoused students in FUSD. More in regards, as opposed to healthcare, what we do is we try to serve for their basic needs. There's something called the McKinney-Vento Act that requires us to offer bus passes, food, clothes, etc. But where we see like the biggest issue is a lot of students, and what this documentary hints at is their families are just one paycheck away from being unhoused. And that act doesn't necessarily qualify for those students. And some of them were my friends too, right? And speaking from Fremont and Fremont Unified, we are funded at 74% of the state average. And so we are a school district that doesn't have that many resources to offer to some of our students. And so we rely a lot on community support. And so what we're trying to do and what we see at some of our sites is they have resources such as food and clothing. That's not available at all of our school sites. So if you want to get involved in supporting our students, I would definitely recommend making a small donation if you can, because for some of those kids, it goes a lot farther than we think. In regards to mental health, on campus, we have counselors that are available. We've been increasing wellness centers at each of our sites. So initially, it was reserved strictly for high schools. It has now expanded to middle and elementary schools. And this is a place where students who feel stressed, who have some sort of, they need some sort of avenue to have some relief for, they can do so during class. But we're slowly trying to make reform for mental health. And if that is something that you're passionate about, feel free to reach out to our office. I'm going to be glad to assist.
And then to add on to that, you also have the Department of Student Support Services,
Yes.
and they do a lot of outreach, and they know the students who are in the foster system or unhoused and need some extra assistance. And we've got a room full of doers and nonprofits here, so feel free to reach out to Fremont Unified School District if you are so inclined.
Hi, everyone. First, I want to say that as the community hospital in this district, we have one job, and that is to care for the people who walk through the doors of the hospital. When patients come in, it's us, it's all of you. It's whether it's someone who has a home to go to or an unhoused community member. We have one job, and that is to care for their well-being, to offer the medical care that they need if they're coming into the emergency department. Last year, we saw had a little over 2,200 emergency room visits from people who identify as not having a shelter to go home to. And we do what we do with everyone else. You care for them. The difficult part comes when they're getting ready to leave the healthcare system, either the emergency room or if they're admitted, being discharged from the hospital. It's connecting them to the programs and services that they need to care for themselves when they leave, and to ideally support them to the resources that they need to support that next step for them. And our social workers who are not here tonight, we have many of them across the street working tonight. their job is to try to fill in the gaps, to connect the patients to the resources that many of you are offering in our community and sometimes beyond our community. And it is a job. It's a pretty significant job. It's identifying the unique needs for the unique person who's walking through the doors and connecting them to resources that aren't always in one location, often spread throughout the community. And we thank you. We thank the community, many of the people on this panel and in the audience today for helping us better serve our patients every single day. Can't say that it's something that we're going to solve overnight, but through collaboration and through constant communication, we can do a better job of serving the people who are walking through our doors. And ultimately, we saw in the video, there's hope. There's hope to solve a problem that has been part of our lives for a very long time. And thank you all for being here tonight and being part of this important discussion.
Thank you very much, and I think that goes along with, like I said earlier, the word collaboration. You're probably hearing a lot tonight. And what a conversation like this does, in my eyes, is it breaks down the silos of us each working separately, and we can work together, and we're stronger together. I've said that. I'll repeat that again. I repeat myself, so sorry. So, with that being said, is my next topic that I'd like to hear a little bit about is charity. And when I was talking with Barry recently, he mentioned to me about a book called Toxic Charity. And so with that, I thought maybe the two of you, Barry and Jeff, would like to talk a little bit about the charity that you see, the charity you provide, and the ups and downs of it. So, please.
First of all, oh no, I got up here.
You walked.
I want to thank you, Councilman Kimberly, just for the opportunity for creating the space, and to Don and Tim, man, well done on this film. And you know, when we think about this line of work, something that I'm passionate about is leadership, right? And so Nico and Josh, please stand up. So these are two guys who are outreach programmers. And so Nico manages our table at the Ardenwood location that you came and attended. And then Josh, he facilitates a table at the Food Max location. Now what we've learned, right, so we've been doing this work for going on 12 years, is in the early stages, it was very much, hey, let's go and do something good, you know, we're faith-based, let's just obey what God says. But in the journey and the process, what we've realized is that we needed the table because it was changing us. And so when you can find leaders that are passionate about, you know, that's what I heard in the film was, you know, despair is the worst. And you look it in the face and you can see that all people have is despair. They need compassion. And so when you can be intentional with strategy to set up these tables to really love people right where they're at, and really expose them to community in an effective in a way that they can see life through a different lens, it changes the game. It changes their world. And when you can invite them into your world, you know, one of my favorite things about Jesus, he says to build a table, invite people to the table, bring gifts to the table, share his word at the table, and their eyes will be open. So that's been our posture, and we've learned so much from this community. It isn't us and them. It is literally, they have given more to us in the transforming of our hearts than we could have ever given. Anything tangible is nothing compared to the type of people we become. And then you find leaders like these guys who are going to just be sold out for it, that we just want to keep making those leaders.
Yeah, I've found that compassion is like a muscle, that you need to exercise it, and as you exercise it, becomes stronger, and then you're able to do more with it, and that it's a virtuous cycle, that it helps build things. And that one of the things that I see happening with folk in my congregation and their involvement, particularly with the Safe Parking program lately, is seeing the difference between charity and justice. You asked specifically about charity, and charity is that very important work of pulling the children out of the river. Justice work is the work of going upstream and finding out why those children are falling in the river in the first place, or worse yet, being thrown in the river. And so we really need to be doing both. We need to be working on rescuing the people who are drowning and working with them to find a better way to live in this moment. And we need to be working on transforming the systems that lead to it. One of the things that I really appreciated about the movie was the whole question of money. There were two thoughts that I had listening to the movie about money. One was that if you increase the amount of affordable housing in a community, it's going to depress housing values. And so people who own houses have a vested interest in keeping affordable housing from coming in so that their housing values stay up, which gets in the way of solving the problem. And I think one of the things that can help us get past that is compassion, and having compassion. The other one is I just did a little quick calculating during the movie. Minimum wage in Fremont is something like $21 an hour. If you are getting paid $21 an hour, 40 hours a week for 52 weeks a year, and divide that by 12, so it's a monthly income, and then take 30% of that, that's the amount you're supposed to spend on housing of your income, that's $1,092 a month for housing. I don't know that you can rent a room for $1,092, let alone an apartment in Fremont.
Thank you.
Can I say one more thing? James Gonzalez, I'm so proud of you. So James and his wife Trina were one of the first families that we got to support. And to see him up here as a leader is something I just gotta say, man, I love you and I'm so proud of you.
You got the microphone out here.
That was awesome. It's funny how some of these people I've been talking to for over a year, and then it ends up, these guys know each other, and they know each other in a very special way. So it's kind of funny what's kind of unfolding, kind of amazing, actually. Thank you. So the next question, question 5, and then we'll hear a little bit from the mayor, and then we'll do some Q&A from the audience, is really about business and nonprofits. And I'm directing that to Kristen and James. James runs a nonprofit, and Kristen does all kinds of business in nonprofits. And I thought maybe you could talk about how does a business or a nonprofit stand out, make a difference in helping our unhoused community.
Well, let's get some. I'm starting a nonprofit. I haven't fully started it yet. This is all full circle for me, from the Housing First to showing when you have that connection with those that are given to the population, how that really affects you. And I was going to say something to Barry too. When I think about one of the first encounters that I had with someone who really showed compassion to me and my family, it was him and his wife. And when I got to a place when I was actually housed, I remembered that. And here I am full circle, like you said. But for me, being able to come out of that and really start shaping what I'm trying to build with working with the community, because I know what it's like to be stuck. I know what it's like to bring my child home from the hospital to a shelter, and as a man, not knowing where to go from there. And can only imagine if I had all the stipulations about all these barriers as far as addiction, all that stuff, if I would even made it. So I think for me, being able to really connect with the population on that level, my lived experience, and, I'm a believer too, I give God all the honor and glory first and foremost. But at the end of the day, being able to connect with them, understanding where they're coming from, and, being able to connect in a way that touches their heart. Because I work with the population out here all the time. I'm doing my own thing, but at the end of the day too as well, I am employed by an organization that is Housing First. They housed me 8 years ago, and I work for them today. And that's just the power of people's story and the power of my story. and then I can move forward and actually try to help the community even more by stepping out of my comfort zone and building something that works for them, coming from someone who's been there. So I don't know if I really answered the question, but I had to get that off my chest. Because there's this whole thing for me is full circle, because housing first works. And a lot of people out there that are unhoused, whether if you're talking about Isherwood, the Slabs, or Ardenwood, they really are trying. And there are a lot of barriers. As much as we can fill those gaps and help them as much as we can with the support that we can do now, they are trying. So.
I'm going to try to make this brief. So again, my name is Kristen Knight. I'm president of the Niles Main Street Association. I'm also a business owner in Niles. I am very ashamed to say that I have been behind some of the encampment clearings in Niles. When you get calls from the community members because there's tents being built up against the backyards, they're seeing needles on the streets, they're seeing garbage everywhere, kids are afraid, our seniors are afraid. And when we've reached out for resources, there's been no answer. When I've gone into cars with our mental health crisis counselors that are licensed to serve, and they get stuck because they get stopped because there's no social security card, because of HIPAA rules, because of this. So that has been a struggle. But what we've done with Niles Main Street is, whenever we've had an event, we reach out to the local homeless communities, unhoused communities that are immediately around us. And some of those people have been homeless for 10, 15, 20, yes, even 30 years and are still out there. And they come out of the woodwork because they want to work. And we give them money to help us run these events, whether it's sitting at the gates to help get people in and out of our events safely, whether it's servicing our bathrooms, garbage, setting up booths, taking down booths, giving people directions. They're a part of the community. And so those are some of the things that we've done to try to make a difference in their lives. And we get a solid rotation of people that come through all of our events. We have over 23 events in Niles a year. So there's a lot of room for help and a lot of room, that we can try to help them out with. It doesn't seem like much, but we feed, and usually we have a couple of people that bring out clothing and so forth. So whenever we do an event, we're giving clothes, we're giving food, and we're giving some money, so they've made a living for the day. And you can see the pride in it. They love coming out and doing this for us. And, as a business owner, walking a fine line when you see that angry individual, and I have to tell you, seeing this documentary is just really eye-opening. You don't see what they're seeing. You don't know why they're yelling and screaming and tearing apart, somebody's freshly landscaped front of their business. You don't know. And just being able to find the resources and have somebody answer the call would make a big difference, I think. And us in Niles, we have a lot of compassionate people, and we know where everybody went from Vallejo Mills. We know where everybody has gone from Isherwood. We know where they've gone out of Niles Community Park. We keep tabs, and we try to continue to do so to the best that we can. It's not enough, but it's something.
Thank you. And that is quite a challenge. You're on both sides of the street, really.
Yeah.
And thank you for that.
I'm embarrassed to say it. I'm sorry. I have, had to make those decisions, to make those phone calls.
Vivian?
Can I have a mic? I can actually talk pretty loud, but, I just so much respect for my colleagues up here. But I also want to say something else, in the spirit of this film, is that there's sort of there's sort of finger pointing in us and them, but nonprofits are also businesses. So we were born here in Fremont, we're Abode Services, and now we employ 800 people, and we're headquartered here, right? So we have the same, as nonprofits, have very similar challenges and desires and hopes and dreams for all of the people that work for us and all the people that we serve, all of our patrons, if you will, our clients. So I just want to say that, as we talk to each other, I think we need to remember we're more in common than not. And I think sometimes the issues that get in the way sort of stop that. So I just want to, honor the folks up here that we all are businesses in some ways.
Thank you. I think one more question I didn't really have written down, but it's something we did talk about when we did our panel briefings. And it was, I know many of you probably heard of Measure W. And is there a way to give us a brief recap on, 2020, blah, 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 here we are, and giving people a little, like, a quick tutorial. Can you do that, Supervisor?
Yes. So Measure W passed in 2020. Unfortunately, it was held up in litigation for 4 years. So we are now, we've developed the framework to basically fund our Home Together plan. So we know what works in this county, and we are investing significantly. We just launched an RFP. Many providers up here probably applied for it, but we do believe in the Housing First model. And we're also, with the help of CDA, our Housing and Homeless Department, in close communication with every city to really help promote their own housing plans. So we're very fortunate in this county because, as you know, HR 1, the federal bill, has significant cuts to this community. Some were mentioned that just came out with HUD. But in this county, we do have funding. It's not enough to completely backfill the hits, but it will minimize that. And so you will see continuous investment in Housing First models, wraparound services. I'll ask my colleague to break down the numbers and the investments. If not, I do have a cheat sheet. But it's just really critical that we continue to invest in these solutions. I will get into the specific numbers in a second, but I did want to highlight something else I think is really important. As I mentioned earlier, I represent many cities in this district, and every city has a different approach, right? There's different mayors, there's different council members, there's different views. So one philosophy I think that's really important for all of us to keep in mind is the 3 Ps, and that is to produce housing, as we saw, the Housing First model, to preserve the affordable housing we currently have, and to protect, right? And protection is related to tenant protections. So as was mentioned, many people are one critical incident away from becoming homeless. Many people don't have a rainy day fund. So we have to look at what every city is doing, and there isn't a one size fits all, but I think we're at the point that every city truly has to step in and adopt those 3 Ps, so that way we can prevent more people from becoming homeless. But just to highlight the significant investments, so the dollars are making within Measure W is we've identified 80% of the annual revenue, which is about $170 million per year for the next 6 years, are going to go into investing in housing, homelessness, preventative, and supportive services. We have launched the goal of emphasizing again on the Home Together plan. So, sorry, I'm not finding the figures here. Do you know the numbers?
For which one?
For Measure W.
A few of them, not all of them. That's let's see.
I apologize. I thought I was prepared for this.
Okay. Well, there are quite a few programs and earmarks for Measure W. Just a couple of the things that we've managed to get off the ground right away. The county has made $40 million available for production of housing units across the county. So that will be units targeted for serving those who are homeless or have those special needs. And the focus is on speed, really, trying to get as many close to ready to build projects and units off the ground as possible. We have launched a $15 million fund to help affordable housing providers. Vivian made the point that nonprofit housing providers are key business entities in our community. They employ hundreds, thousands of people across the county, and their fiscal health is really important to not just the housing ecosystem, but the economy as a whole, right? There were several other programs that I can't recall off the top of my head.
Oh,
but
sorry, I apologize. So another issue we've heard is about the shelter bed rate, how it's low. So that is coming back to us to increase it, so that way we can make sure we're covering the wraparound services, the case management, the linkages to permanent housing. Also, there's been a huge ask from cities, like how can we receive these funding? So that is something that we're all taking into consideration. how can we further invest? Another thing that the county has done is the Measure A1 housing bond. So as was mentioned, the county has had significant investments to help close the gap for affordable housing units. I think also we need to look at, we all have a role. I'm really glad to see that faith leaders are here. We know that the safe parking works. We know how important it is to continue to find those solutions, and want to flag, we need more affordable housing. For those of us that come out and have opposition to housing, we're really not a part of the solution when we do that, right? So it's really important that we look at housing affordability at all levels in the production of housing. So those are strong policies that we are also implementing in the county, and we're responsible for the land use in unincorporated counties who want to make sure we're driving those investments as well. But Measure W, you will start seeing significant outcomes. We are going to do our best to track that and have measured outcomes, so that way people will see that the numbers will start going down. But again, as we saw in the film, housing first is the approach, so we have to continue to advocate and support those efforts.
And correct me if I'm wrong on the numbers, but one of the exciting things that I'm seeing coming out of Measure W, the Home Together plan, is I think 15% is going to be used for prevention. So the county, with a lot of public input, has created a prevention framework. So again, this trying to keep people from coming into homelessness, so much easier to do than to serve them after they become homeless. So that investment's the first time that the county's had the opportunity to really invest in prevention in a meaningful way. So that's one of the things I'm most excited about.
Thank you very much. Next question is going to be from the audience. And then I think we're going to take a quick break to see the mayor's message, because he took the time to do a message for all of you since he couldn't be here tonight. So question is going to be for Tim and Don, or Tim.
Tim and Don.
Okay.
Mostly Don. Oh, thank you. I'll try to read it. Housing First has been priority for local providers and also permanent support housing by some. What do we in Fremont need to do to have the success of Milwaukee and Houston? It's actually a favorite question. Is it somebody, was that a plant? Well, first of all, I think what I'm hearing is Housing First has been a priority for local providers, and the problem is not going away. I'm going to assume that that's the sentiment. What we have found, we've been here for a few days now, and we've had a few screenings around this area, and what we have found is that there's a lot of misconceptions and confusion about Housing First. And our movie, we hope, clarifies what it isn't, and it appears that there's a lot of things that are happening around, well, not just California, but around the country, that are called Housing First, but are not Housing First at all. So that would be the first thing that we would probably need to, as a community, to talk about. But what do we need to do to have the success of Milwaukee and Houston? I think Don has a better answer.
So a lot of people think that, and we understand, because we take so much time to clarify what Housing First is and what it's not, only because of all this. Housing First is under attack because the programs that are not Housing First, the attackers have attacked those. They can't attack real Housing First programs that are doing it to fidelity, because they work all over the world, right? So we have to take the time, but this isn't a Housing First film. If you have 5 people falling into homelessness and you house 3, you're still going to have problems. It's still going to increase. And Housing First gets blamed. This is a community collaboration film. Milwaukee and Houston, they involved their entire community, particularly the business community. The business communities are, they are systems people, and they are civic minded. And if you approach them with a business case, they normally respond. And if you approach them with, you know, this plan, and you say, this is how we're gonna work, or whatever, the feds are backing off, we need, you know, funding and that kind of stuff. And then you go to your faith community and you tell them, here's something for the faith community, here's something. Housing First is the Good Samaritan and Matthew 25 wrapped into one. It is the most Christ-like intervention you could possibly even dream of, made by somebody who's not Christian. You know, which Jesus always like threw at people, you know, like unlikely sources. So I'm rambling. Okay. So what you need to do to be like Milwaukee and Houston is upstream. You have to attack all the stuff. You know, you have to, like, you've got prevention going on. You have to keep them from coming in. You know, and the way that you do that is you involve, you set a table with healthcare and law enforcement, elected officials, the mayors, the county. Everybody sits at the table and figures out an overall system. You know, these are goals. You figure out the system that these goals can put into to where it's collaborative, to where it will achieve the goals. Because if you have everything that everybody's working on and they're not coordinated, then it's not going to achieve the goals. So that's how they did it. You know, they coordinated in a very.
And maybe I'll just add, and we didn't have the time to put it in, but the folks in Milwaukee, when they started this whole thing, they were intentional. They had all the people from the stakeholders, all the stakeholders, all the sectors meet every week on a Tuesday during the lunchtime, and they had a lot of fights in the beginning, and they couldn't agree on anything, but they kept working and talking and figuring out, and eventually, after they did it for a year, then they extended it for another 6 months. It took some time, but that table was set, and they kept working, and they arrived at the solution. And I'll just throw you an example of what could happen. We were in the University of, what is it, San Francisco State University last night, and we were asked if what we as outsiders, we come here and we preach, and we get the pushback. Well, you know, California is different, we don't have any housing, whatever, you guys don't know what's going on here. And then we were at the university last night, and one of the people there says, what is the role, do you think, of the university in this whole thing of solving homelessness? Because, you know, we have 600 beds that are just sitting there, we don't know what to do with them. There's no housing in California. And if those people, university or whatever, was at this table and this came up, well, there's a source of some housing or some units. So, yeah, so the point is talking to each other at a very intentional forum on a regular basis for a while will bring you to the right solutions eventually.
Councilmember, I found the accurate information. I did not want to give out wrong information.
Okay.
And I thought I had it in my notes, but obviously I'm aging in place by age, and it's hard to see that paper. So I found it in color. I want to make sure everyone has this information. So as was mentioned, Measure W is going to fund that Home Together plan. And the components of the plan is prevention, shelter, housing, access and coordination, and one-time capital funding. So we developed this plan, but we didn't have the money to actually implement. But now with Measure W, we do. So with prevention, we're going to invest $276 million, 130 shallow subsidies, $148 million towards rental assistance, and $15 million towards federal backfill. So the rental subsidies are key. As we mentioned, many people are one emergency away from becoming unsheltered. $348 million is going to go towards shelters with 250 new units. As I mentioned, the bed-night rate will be increasing, which I know our providers are very excited about. And housing at $384 million. We're going to wrap up to 1,206. This is going to help up to 1,265 households and provide 805 subsidies. And access and coordination is an investment of $214 million. and capital acquisition for one-time investments is $180 million. That's gonna help 850 housing and shelter units. So that's a total investment of $1.4 billion with W. So that's what Measure W is doing for this county. Thank you for letting me correct that.
Wow. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Where'd you find it?
On my newsletter. July's newsletter, please sign up, all the accurate information.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good thing. The acgov.org. You can look up your supervisors on there, acgov.org. You go down to the bottom of the page, all the supervisors are there. You can click on their page and sign up for the newsletter and learn all kinds of great stuff like that. So don't forget that. I want to do some thank yous, and then I would love for us to see the mayor's message, but I also, that's the thank yous. I'll start with our city manager, Karina Shackelford, is here tonight. Thank you for being here. Anyway, thank you very much for being here tonight. Once again, thank you to the steering committee and all the people who brought snacks and goodies. Thank you very much for doing that tonight. And then our donors, big donors. We had the Supervisor Halbert and Supervisor Marquez, Republic Services, they were here early. I think I might have seen them have to leave. Abode Services, Washington Health, they're here. Citizens for a Better Community, they're in the house, and I'm part of them too. Cargill Salt was here, I don't know if he's still here. And the Fremont Chamber of Commerce. And then a very special heartfelt thanks to Tim and Don for sharing with us your passion and your work and your commitment to making things better during tonight. Thank you.